Hello, folks. It's time. Welcome all to the Master Friend Art Stream. I'm your fine, fantastic host, Master Friend, here with another burning hot Wednesday afternoon going on night stream. I've actually streamed on time, so that's pretty nice. Hope everyone's doing well, because I've been pretty alright. I've been decent. Just spending the day trying to just stay cool in general. A lot of my day job has been, been in a hot bus and trying to endure that stuff. One nice thing about just my job is they're humane enough to not leave me in the hot and dry stuff. They give me the option to either use one of the AC buses if I have a low amount of students, or just do get some water and stuff like that. Lucky for me, I'm pretty decent when it comes to I suppose my just water supply. Why are you not filling? This is quite strange. I'm like, why the hell are you not filling, bro? Oh no, it's one of those things. But yeah, today I'm working on another pixel art portrait of Nad Greentail, the boss character of Blackmask, where Cole will have a head-to-head conversation and basically they'll be shit-talking each other. So that's gonna be some fun stuff, a little fun interaction. Yeah, I've just been writing general stuff for Blackmask, but things have been pretty good. Probably reintroduce what Blackmask is up to. For those whose first time it's been at this stream, Blackmask is a indie game that I'm developing with a programmer friend. This is a short portable Game Boy game about, well, it's not portable, it's not going to be on a cart, but it's a small stealth platformer game about a raccoon treasure hunter going around the world hunting for treasure to sell in his merchant shop and do a bunch of other merchant things. He tackles against pirates and explores lost dungeons in order to unlock the secret histories of his land. So this has been a indie game that me and my program have been working on since 2020, and if we play our cards right, we'll have a playable demo ready around this September roughly. We're kind of just doing our best to get things arranged, but I'd say things have been pretty good. There's this event in Chicago that we're shooting to get towards, and once we just get a decent amount of feedback and also do some Kickstarter stuff and just drum up interest in general, we'll finally just have a proper playable build for everyone to play and give feedback on and talk about it and things like that. I've been just doing a bunch of writing in general and doing general prep for just this holiday thing of making a rudimentary press kit, where it's like, okay, this is what the game is, here's a link to a build, stuff like that. So just tackling that, making like a little print things for as a business card, but instead of a business card, it's probably just gonna be a postcard, because it's likely that people aren't gonna keep the business card, and also it's a whole different thing. I feel like usually people are just gonna scan and drop it, so that's why they're postcards instead. Also, we'll be able to mail this to other people, like actual tech firms or whatever. Mostly just as a formality. I don't know if they'll actually take, if people still accept snail mail applications for stuff, but it's one of those things where I do want to just try out with that. But yeah, Blackmask it's coming. I am kind of nervous, but I'm doing my best to not feel too nervous about it all. I think the one thing that's kind of just hitting me hard is basically doing my going public with my, I suppose, just lore, and kind of just deal with the general imposter syndrome of, am I a good enough writer to convey this character? Is this character make sense? Does it not? Does this character have an interesting motivation? And all that other worry that I probably can't really worry about, because I still need to understand the game a bit more. I mean, it's fine. I met up with my programmer over the past weekend, and so we basically just chatted about how we're going to tackle the demo level and things like that. Currently, he's been working on figuring out how to get the enemy pattern behavior for Nad's boss fight to work, and that's been a thing that we've been tackling. And also we've been discussing how the actual fight's gonna actually go, so talking about design quirks, the strategy that we would have the player utilize, and how Nad's going to do his stuff. And it's gonna be simple enough. It's not gonna be a crazy elaborate, well, I mean, ideally it'd be like a cool immersive simi type thing, but we're not gonna do anything extreme. But the hope is, well, let's just focus on the basics. The one thing that I keep worrying about is doing overscoping when we really should be working on the basics. And from the videos my programmer's shown of the build, I mean, now he's gotten down most of the basic stuff that has been an issue for the previous build that he sent me, which is floaty jumps, the walks all over the place, and no pause menu or inventory lists and stuff like that. So far, according to him, it kind of controls a little bit like Mega Man 6 or Ninja Gaiden. So that's kind of interesting. I've actually been playing a tiny bit of Ninja Gaiden 1 just to see how the game plays, and kind of just seeing what's his point of view, because I don't have a build of it myself, so I'd have to actually hold it in my hands and see. Though the Mega Man 6 thing's pretty fascinating, so I'll have to try that out, because I believe Mega Man 6 is the one with the actual charge buster. Like the first time you got the charge buster and the slide in the same game. So yeah, that's gonna be pretty fascinating just to see how that's gonna be tackled. So I'd say push comes to shove, we'll have I think we'll formally announce that what event we're actually gonna be doing. Because Chicago Indie City Game Showcase is the event that we're going to be doing, and that's going to be later on in September, and either at that time or maybe a month after, we'll actually have like maybe a link to a full build and stuff like that. We'll at least have a Steam page or an itch page, stuff like that. I've been looking things up. So that's what we've been up to. That's what we've been doing, and we're just doing our best, kind of just get this, complete our goal of finishing a damn video game. So that's what we're gonna be about, and that's what I'm about. So that's kind of just been what I've been up to for, I'd say, the past weekend. But yeah, this is me kind of just taking some time to work on some Nad stuff right now. Right now it's me working on this portrait of Nad right now. I already have Captain Rhodes here, though she looks tiny compared to Nad. Like, Nad looks humongous. And I was debating with myself of whether or not to use either a smaller size of Cole for this, because Cole's actual size is like, well, actually no, Cole's actually like a head smaller than her, and then Cole is like this small, and then if I encounter someone larger, it would be like this. So it's one of those things where kind of just figuring that out as I go. Oh, I also have a confronting pose, which, bleh, I'll tackle that with impunity. And also, I made some animations. I had some animations with Nad, and then I kind of just extended that to everyone else just to fiddle with that. Actually, Nad was a portrait that I actually did before Rhodes, and I guess I got Rhodes done before Nad, really. Why are you not playing? Oh, that's why. It's just blinking a million miles a minute. How are you blinking now? Eh. The one thing that I do need to check is if Twitch doesn't mute my stream. Hopefully it's not muted with my more regular Bandcamp music. These are actual bands I like in Bandcamp, and honestly, might as well I share my taste. If anyone's actually interested in the type of music I listen to every now and then, you can see my collection on Bandcamp. I'll just drop a link here. Boom. Bandcamp.com/Matt'sFran. And you can just see my, I suppose, collection of music that I purchased because I like supporting my artists that I like, who make good music. I also do my best to wait till actual Bandcamp Friday so they actually get 100% of the profits and proceeds and things like that. I like that. When's the next Bandcamp Friday? Let's see, is it Bandcamp Friday? I should actually save this in my browser. So next Bandcamp Friday is August 1st. Good. So August 1st, I'm gonna basically just build up all my collection of music that I want to buy, and then I'll buy it, and I will have more music to, play on this, and there'll be more music to listen to. So it is what it is with that. Let's glance at my dashboard just in case, because OBS doesn't tell me if my stream's muted or not, so that's kind of just one of those things where I'm never gonna know. I don't even know how people find out their stream's muted, because it's kind of just one of those things where they'll do it or do not. So it is what it is with that. Okay. But one thing that I'm pretty happy about is that I set up my audio settings so none of my music's actually is going past what's needed. Finally, I've been struggling with having my audio settings better, because okay, I know why. Okay, yeah, the one thing that I struggle with my audio settings is that they end up overwhelming my voice when I don't intend it to overwhelm my voice, and so it can be a bit of a bother. And I can re-edit my audio, so I can re-edit my audio so it doesn't do that. But of course, the fact that it's not on stream is kind of just an issue with that, so I do my best. Anywho, this portrait of Nad's mostly just me kind of just trying to rank out a large portrait as much as I can. I used to be able to do some pen pressure settings with this, but I cannot figure out why the pressure setting's not exact. Because I can have this, but yet I press really light and it doesn't do it, and it drives me nuts because I cannot figure out what this does. Like, I try going as light as possible, and yet it's still the full 4. I don't know if it stays one thing completely or not. It just kind of just sucks overall. I never know if it's a piece of a thing or I have to do another thing, but it's an issue. But let me see if the Wacom settings will tell me. It's kind of weird because I don't have to do the Wacom stuff here. Wacom. Bucket Wacom. Wacom. Alright, I'm gonna glance at my Wacom settings just to see. Alright. So there is pressure settings. So the pressure settings are for A-Sprite. It's just for some reason it just won't frickin' do it. Lucky for me, I don't need to worry so much about pixels, but I used to be able to do some actual proper painting, and that helped me a lot with blocking in colors faster. And now I kind of just have to deal with all that stuff, so I totally skipped out a day to go back to the pool again. I promised myself that I'd go back to the pool, but then it rained yesterday, and then today it looked cloudy and yet scorching and stuff like that, so I was like, maybe I'll stream today. I was actually debating with myself whether I wanted to stream today, because I wasn't in the mood. I didn't feel that anyone watched these streams that much, or I'm losing my concentration. I would have just went back to just doing some writing, because there's a bunch of writing stuff that I need to knock out. Mostly the draft of chapter 4, because I feel like I'm going in a new direction with it. It's just I need to glance ahead again. I spent yesterday kind of reading a bunch of like different writing books, and I suddenly, well, to get myself to kind of just see more, I attempted to read The Elements of Style. You know, it's a really dry English book, but honestly, I feel like I'm getting more, I guess, knowledge of just general writing than I ever did in my English class. I'm like, wow, I think if I went to maybe like a writing school, or maybe if I went, like, heck, I feel like the Elements of Style should be a requirement for just a general English class, not just a creative writing class, because this stuff like this is basic English that just no one uses. And I feel like using just those basic little things got me to improve my writing just on a craft, well, not craft, well, yeah, on a craft level. Just I'm getting myself to use better prepositions. I'm able to write more active without looking like I'm completely self-doubting myself all the time. Of course, the majority of that is me just writing to my voice, but you know, we'll get over that as we go. And most of just all of Elements of Style is kind of just figuring out why you're just what in the fuck. It's like, okay, now just looking at all my refs right here. Got my Nad refs on the alternate of my second stream, while I have the stream subs on the third stream. So I kind of just get that. I need to color this back again, because I do need to color this, because I inked this last year, and I do need to just get back into just flat coloring. But I feel like this one, you know, the actual proper rendering just gets more respect. So I think, you know what, I'll think about this, because this is a smaller page overall. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. And then I got a bunch of just trash sketches of Nad. Yeah, all this dumb stuff with the sketches and portraits, things like that. Little animation map of how we'd have the boss patterns and things like that. And the older sketches of Nad back when he was just a fat fox and not a tanuki, which I'm kind of like, oh, you know, tanuki are technically canines like foxes, so why not just have a tanuki? They look like raccoons, and it would be a cool idea for a villain character against Cole. So, you know, kind of just figure that stuff out and kind of just went with that. And, you know, just had basically two different sketches of what's essentially the same pose. I'm kind of like, why'd I do that? I guess I just had two different sketchbooks and I just forgot. And of course, we have a bit of a meet 'em the boys type of sketch. I probably should color this just as a little gag. I'll find it and just color you. Why not? It's missing a tooth too. Oh, it's digital. Ah, all right. Oh, now I'm starting to remember, because this was back when I was trying to give my Samsung phone a chance, and I was just forcing myself to try and just sketch in this cell phone, and it kind of works. I managed to find some settings with the cell phone that got me comfortable with sketching in the phone, so that was pretty nice with that. And then we got another like mini sketches and the other just general refs, where it's like, you know, actual proper archery drawings, trying to figure out how the hand's supposed to work. Though I hear that this is actually not accurate to archery, but I'll hit that up. There's also, you know, some I hunt for refs, so I mean, it's not like I'm completely off this. And then a bunch of like existing characters who I kind of is trying to inform the personality and the mood of Cole. Because not Cole, but Nad. Because Nad's more of a comedy character in a way. Like, he's half serious, half comedy, where it's like he's serious enough to basically be on Cole's rival overall, but he's kind of like he's got to work his way up from not being a joke. So that's kind of like he starts as Dan, which is actually the reason why he's named Naz, because it's just Dan spelled backwards, because that was the initial thought with that. And Bang Shishigami, I've never played Blaze Blue. Of course, you know, I like looking at Blaze Blue videos and, you know, playing the game and stuff like that. And of course, Bang Shishigami is one of those, like, you know, they're the funny badasses with that kind of stuff. So, and of course, E Honda, you got, I think I picked E Honda because he is a notable fat, strong character. And of course, it's probably just my weebery, just, you know, clouding my judgment of like me not being able to think of anything beyond my stupid anime influences. So it is what it is with that. And of course, we have the Korea team from King of Fighters. Well, without Kim, but whatever. It's what's his face and the claw guy. And of course, obviously, I get refs of actual real life Tanuki because I prefer to do that so I can actually figure out ways to kind of like make them unique looking, or at least make them like, how do I like to look at the actual proper animal so I can interpret how I would, you know, interpret this type of animal. And then I look at other people's interpretations of how Tanuki is portrayed, you know, where you'll find a little Tanuki statue with large testicles, the you know, other paintings of them. You know, it's kind of funny. I would make a... It's kind of funny, because Ned, obviously, he's a Tanuki, but of course, you're not really seeing him with huge nuts. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I cannot put that in a public-ass video game where everyone can see that it's not a porn game. But honestly, it's kind of weird, because if I was doing it by myself, if I was like programming the game by myself, I didn't have to be accountable to anyone else, I actually would probably like put Ned with large testicles, or at least give like a gag where he has bigger balls than Cole. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, because I'm doing this with a programmer, I don't want to like hit him with my weird bullshit. Even though I have shown him really just the weird, well, no, I'm not gonna say that's the big weird stuff, because you know, you probably follow my socials and you've seen me like post weird stuff, but a lot of the stuff is more like the more monstrous weird. So you'll probably see, like, if you've seen my bird hawk guy where, you know, he has a hummingbird on his crotch and stuff like that, or maybe that one Dalmatian with eyes for spots. That's stuff that I've shown my programmer, and you know, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's out there, but it's not like anything crazier than something you'd see in Dark Souls and things like that. So, you know, it's kind of weird, because I don't have to be a coward about this, really. Like, this is an indie game. I'm sure I don't need to rate it, or at least I don't know if we're gonna rate it. We don't, or at least I'm not encouraged to go find a publisher. Like, a lot of stuff with that, a lot of stuff with I don't know, like, because yeah, you can just post a game without a publisher and it's totally fine. Or at least on Newgrounds and stuff like that. I think Steam you can just post without a publisher, but of course, you know, it is what it is with that. But you know, a lot of this stuff is just me kind of like being like, yeah, I'm drawing what just interests me in life, whether it's an obscure mythological thing or a just a unique take on some stuff. Yeah, my programmer suggested having a character like a Yatagarasu, like a crow character. I'm like, yeah, sure. It's just I can't think of anything to do with such a mythological creature, because it's like, okay, Yatagarasu, messenger of Shintoism, things like that. It's kind of like, all right, what the fuck do I do with something like that? So I ended up kind of like going through that brainstorming personal sesh, because you know, Nad was, I think overall, Nad was initially Adam's idea of a fat fox. I was like, I never see foxes as fat. Well, I guess outside of like Fetish art, I suppose, but it's like, you know, I don't think of foxes as fat really. So I'm like, I vetoed it initially, but then it got me like, you know, I went and did some sketches because I wanted to push myself, and then I realized, you know, a Tanuki actually would fill that role just as well. So obviously I'm repeating myself, but you know, I've you know, for overall, I'd say that having Cole be confronted with a Tanuki was inevitable, honestly, because Tanukis look like raccoons, so obviously I would hit that up. It's just the nature of how he'd be. I didn't know if he was going to be a samurai. I didn't know if he was going to be, you know, I'd say the archery stuff was spontaneous overall, because yeah, the tail quiver was that initial fox sketch, and then I just went to Nad, and you know, it all just came together and just made plenty of sense. So I'm pretty happy with that. I don't like this fluff. It looks what's getting me about this? I'm not sure. I'm like looking at my preview and trying to like figure out what's just eating me about this. Because I'm trying to like give him a sense of messiness, like he's more disheveled because he's spending most of his days out on the sea avoiding the law because he's a military deserter. You know, he deserted his tail knight position and, you know, just spent his life just as a pirate to survive. So that's essentially Nad's overall backstory, is why he's a bandit, and mostly just encountered Cole on opportunity to rob him, and that's essentially just how his backstory just goes at the moment. But I do want him to be, I suppose, a point of view character for how much it sucks to have that fox hierarchy and, you know, all the world building that entails, and he'd be the perfect shower, you know, the perfect like character to be like, yeah, this is why one, Nad is like this, and two, why the Fox Kingdom is like that. And obviously you can't just go off of that. So that's kind of just one of those things, and I do hope that I'm at least making this scene, you know, obviously not preachy and things like that, where it's like, yes, hierarchy bad. This weird tail hierarchy where you're judging someone's social standing is not good. So obviously it's one of those things where, yeah, I'll figure it out as I go. I mean, I like the idea of like the tail stuff being a thing, because it's an expansion of just a whole bunch of things with, you know, all the other like Fox Knights with like the ability to block things with their crazy fluffy tail, which is supposed to work like a shock absorber. That's kind of how I saw the tail, as a very large shock absorber. Like, I feel like how their tails work as a shield is that they set up their tail in a way where the hair will grow and mat enough that, you know, foxes will be able to, you know, absorb the shock of, you know, the arrow attacks and sword attacks and certain sword attacks. So that's the I suppose the, you know, I'm finger quoting here, realistic mechanics of how the tail shield works. But long story short, the tail shield's there because it's fucking cool and unique and different. And it's not just stuff that you would see an elf do, really. That's, I guess, one thing that I do. That's one way I want to tackle Blackmask fantasy aspect, is if I can figure out a way to kind of like incorporate the animal logic of all this stuff, that would be imperative to me personally. Because if it's just like, okay, it's an animal and they have just, you know, they got a sword, that's cool. Yeah, cool. It's just, how is that any other different than maybe like a Skaven or a lizard man and Warhammer and stuff like that? You know, it's one of those things. So this could be up like this. Yeah, because he has toned enough arms because he's an archer, so you know, he's fairly strong in that sense. Hooah.
Dr. Destructoid, are our plans ruined by leaving the microphones on?
All right.
Oh no, our plans are ruined because we plan to steal space tambourine. That's not a
Now this coal look like right here. Move you.
all natural snaffle made from green and black tea leaves. Nutrition facts. Serving size, 1 bottle. Amount per serving, calories 150. Percent daily value, total fat 0 grams, 0%. Sodium 10 milligrams, 0%.
Yeah. All right, back to this.
12%. Sugars 36%.
Yeah, go back to neutral.
0 grams. Not a significant source of calories from fat, saturated fat,
Yeah,
fat, cholesterol,
neutral. He's neutral.
vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron. But you know what is a significant source of all of those things?
Because I could fit his tail in, but I was like, does he have space for that tail? Nah, fuck it. Yeah. He's I think this is far beyond how his
You are better than Snapple. You are better than Snapple.
I guess it's just me kind of like wondering like what the frick.
Space Marine is just legit. It's got that tune that doesn't quit. It keeps you bouncing all day long, and that's why we are making this song. So here's a little rap for you, because I have to make a proof. It will not sound like shit, because this song is it. Space Tambourine.
This is truly hardcore punk, but I feel like this is also half a shit post. RB, I love you, but this is kind of a shit post, bro. You know, honestly, thinking about this is kind of like, of course, you know, this music, you know, at the gut reaction is like, yeah, this kind of sounds like crap, but it's like, no, honestly, it's refreshing. You spend your life, I suppose, listening to absolute perfection stuff, and you're so used to, I suppose, the just the normalness of maybe just polished stuff, and you don't really spend most of your time listening to anything truly crap, so it ends up kind of like skewing your perception of what really doesn't work, you know. I guess it's so I was listening to maybe I think it was like one of the art tips thing, probably Alan Moore. I was, you know, a lot of like writer tips and stuff like that, but one fast tip that was out there was reading trash, and obviously, you know, that's always a sensible thing to do. You read broad in order to write broad and things like that, but not just to know what, you know, read all the good stuff, but also just read bad stuff. And this is common advice, because reading bad stuff can also teach you how to understand what's not working about a thing. That's ideally how one would be able to know how to critique something, is you understand what the author is going for, and you actually have to have an idea of, you know, you actually need to explain why it doesn't work. No, there's a frickin' let me ban this ruffle person. Blech. Delete. Deleted. You're banned. Die. But yeah, you know, you're basically making sure that you're able to have a unique not just a unique music experience, but just a unique media experience overall, is to read very broad across the spectrum of quality, and that way you'll actually understand what doesn't work, what does work, why it doesn't work, and, you know, ideally you would also force yourself to critically think, what could you do to make a thing work? Because one thing that I've been trying to also just teach myself is to not just say, oh, this movie totally sucks, ha ha ha, but also try to figure out how I could devil's advocate that movie. If I was in the position of making that movie, how would I approach it from either like the scripting and things like that? So an example that that's constantly on my mind is Space Jam 2. So obviously Space Jam 2 is not very good. It's a giant just shill of WB properties that just go nowhere, and it's completely soulless, more soulless than the original. Everyone knows this, but there's some things that there's a little, a sequel to Space Jam. I have a soft spot for Space Jam because I was a child watching that movie, and I feel like a way to approach a sequel to Space Jam would be, you know, kind of like so in Space Jam 2, Michael B. Jordan was in the movie just as a little cameo, just as a gag, and it was just a short one-shot gag, didn't matter at all. But to me, it's like Michael B. Jordan could totally crush a comedy role, and I feel like he should have been the protagonist of Space Jam 2 instead of LeBron James, because that would be like, it would be one, it would go off of the initial arc, you know, it would go off the joke of Michael Jordan, but two, it would also be an interesting arc in general. Because, okay, so my personal story proposal is like this. So Monstars return, you know, they're after the Looney Tunes and doing their shtick, and the Looney Tunes have to get Jordan back to play another game of basketball. Unfortunately, Jordan's retired, he cannot be found, and they confuse Michael Jordan, you know, top tier basketball player, final boss of basketball, Michael Jordan, and they confuse him for Michael B. Jordan, who is, you know, he could probably not be the actor, he could probably just be a fictionalized version of the actual Michael B. Jordan, whatever, but it's Michael B. Jordan. He is not a basketball superstar, he totally sucks at basketball, and the Looney Tunes are kind of screwed right now because the Monstars are coming. You know, they'll probably have like a plot where they'll blow up the planet if you don't play and win the basketball game, something like that. And Michael B. Jordan has to basically teach himself to play basketball, and not just learn how to play basketball, but also win against the Monstars, who probably would absorb the powers of new basketball players. And you could probably do an interesting voice thing where either you get actual players, like that would be where you could put LeBron, where LeBron would like be the big leader Monstar or whatever. I forget what that guy's name is, but you could have LeBron be like the leader Monstar of that movie, and then he will just constantly be shit talking Michael B. Jordan about how much he fucking sucks at basketball and that he'll never win and yada yada, the typical sports movie stuff. And obviously Michael B. Jordan needs to look within himself to find his gifts, to find out, you know, learn how to win through his own unique talents, qualities, instead of trying to imitate who is basically someone he's not. You know, he's not Michael Jordan, so he has to be himself. So, you know, it's a nice straightforward lesson, and, you know, arguably it's better thought out than the Space Jam 2 that we got. So it's kind of just one of those things where, you know, I'm teaching myself to think better when it comes to writing overall. I still don't feel like I'm doing it as well as I can, because I certainly did not write this down. I think if I was doing a proper fan fiction, I probably would write this down. And I guess that's me kind of like still just being an asshole about fan works, where it's like, for the effort you're spending on fan works, why not just do the actual thing? Because obviously, you know, people enjoy it. That's the nature of their art and stuff like that. Yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to dog on them for that, but that's kind of just my own personal mindset is, you know, if for all the efforts you're putting into doing a fan work that will overall just be copyright struck by heartless corporations who don't even give a shit that you're alive, why not try to make your own unique art through the influences you got from being a fan of those things? But that's my insane diatribe about fan stuff. I'm not gonna dunk on you or judge you less if you make fan works. Actually, I will, but that's neither here nor there. But the overall is just me trying to just improve myself as a writer and understand how you could either salvage a bad movie or probably see how it's, how it doesn't work and stuff like that. So it is what it is with that. I'm not gonna fret too much about, making it an actual proper movie and stuff like that. It's one of those things where I'm still in that learning process of learning how to write, and I have as much time as I got time. It's just I'm always just spooked by the amount of time that, and I'm always worried that I might be delaying things for being perfectionist and stuff like that. So I'm trying not to be such a complete jerkwad about my stuff. So I try to yes and a lot of suggestions that Adam has with characters or concepts and things like that. But overall, we've kind of just been both on the wavelength of doing stuff. Kind of wish he'd get the fuck off Twitter. Yeah, he says that he's trolling racist, but it's like, it's kind of just, I feel like it's kind of just a pointless endeavor, but it is what it is with that. The Blackmask Twitter's still online. It's kind of like, yeah, sure, why not? I haven't completely abandoned the Blackmask Twitter page just yet. I'd say once we have a Steam page, or once the thing releases, or at least I'd say once I prove to Adam that literally no one comes from Twitter to promote, like, Twitter's an awful platform to promote anything, because one, it'll throttle your links, and two, it's just overall just a mess of trash. Nobody gives a shit about Twitter. So I've kind of just been on my own, been on Blue Sky, hang out with my website. I'm a happier person. I am mentally unbothered and in my lane, all that special stuff, and I am protecting my peace, as the women say. You protect your peace, you do the self-care, yada yada, all that stuff. So I'm living my life. I'm trying to just get myself to just deal with summer school overall, because I'll admit it has been just eating me up. Yeah, kind of like looking at this from zoomed out, line art kind of just looks mid. Still need to rework that hair some more. You know what? I think I'll take a break for now. So I'm gonna step away for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes, stretch, maybe do some squats, get some water, get hydrated. You should get some water and get hydrated too, Anywho, I'll be right back. And I am back. Welcome again to the little continuation of the art stream where I'm messing about. You know what? While I'm out here, I might as well add some stuff to Captain Rhodes as well. Why the hell not? I like call this neutral. Call this group neutral. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut, move the eyes, X, Create a new layer. B. Call it eyes. I get you all over so everyone can know what they're about. And we're going to unlink this. And we're actually going to fill use. And do a really basic color job. Nothing too nuts. And for sake of it, we're going to put the blink here as well. It's not much. I probably said so. It's there. No. That looks fine. It looks fine enough. I just realized that I haven't watched Ultra Q in a long time. Well, not that long. It's literally just a few months. But kind of just fell off of watching Ultra Q and the Kamen Rider. I think tomorrow we'll just watch more Kamen Rider. That way I'll just tackle other little stuff. I also realized I still didn't timestamp a bunch of my archive videos. Such a pain in the ass to archive those videos. Because there's like a bunch of them with timestamps and I can just never be asked to deal with it. I don't want to be a content creator, man. A lot of, I guess, the stupid, yeah. I suppose a lot of the foibles of streaming in general is you also need to make content, you know, make little bits of content on YouTube, and it's kind of like, oh, it's supposed to be easy, you just post your drawing and that'll be content. But it's like, not really. It's sure you'll get a little bit of you'll have tiny bits to say, you'll have a drawing, I suppose, but that's not going to cut it for video content, really. Like, okay, you have a drawing, too bad you do need to crank that shit out every day. And overall, I don't like streaming every day. Streaming every day, you know, it takes it out of me. I tried a week of streaming and it kind of just completely discouraged me from streaming in general. Because, you know, not everyone catches my stream, I run out of stuff to say. And I'm mostly just sitting there in silence, in Ultra Instinct mode, just drawing. I'm not really doing much significant. So, you know, it is what it is with that. Yeah. Nad's hair is always the toughest thing about, I guess, him, because it's difficult to, I suppose, make these characters. He different looking enough so you can tell which character is which. That's one thing that I will always just crap in my art style about is, well, not my art style, just my art. Because, you know, the art style thing's a total excuse. It's just, I am not making enough of an effort to make their faces just look distinct enough. Because essentially, a lot of their distinctiveness is literally, you know, this is my interpretation of a tanuki. Like, what do you want from me? So it's me not making a big enough effort to figure out how I can just make them distinct. One nice thing you can do to do that is to have multiple characters of that same animal species. So, you know, try to have like multiple foxes overall. And because you have multiple foxes, you'll have to figure out how to make their faces look distinct enough so that if you see them either in black and white, or you see them in you know, if you see them around, you'll at least know, okay, this is how you do it. What the oh, the eyes are like this. Ah, okay. Alright, so eyebrows. Live with that. Yeah, figuring out the little bits of fine fur is always just the toughest deal. But I'm managing. Overall, I am managing. Looks okay enough. It's just so much other things that need to be dealt with. Yeah, well, I figured out how I'll tackle eyes and things like that. Yeah, one thing that I do pride myself in just figuring out is getting better at anti-aliasing, because I see other pixel artists do anti-aliasing. I'm like, man, these guys are cracked, because they're able to just do just these feats of anti-aliasing. I'm kind of like, wow, I really half-assed most of my anti-aliasing, because yeah, looks all right. Okay. Eyes look okay. I'm kind of just like figuring it out as I go. What can make this look unique? Yada yada yada. So, just pondering that. Yep. Just figuring out just tiny little bits of that. Probably don't even need to do this, but that's one thing that kind of just make the brow line look suppose just decent, is just have these little spots of adjustment. Who knows? Oh, that's why I did that. Okay. Like, looking at this, I'm like, oh, that's why I did that, because of this. That's why I did such, because of such. So all the pixel art is a specific arrangement that's got to be dealt with as it goes. Okay. Okay. Like, nudge you down. Alright, it's looking kind of good. Alright. So far, so good. Oh, Shawnee's raiding. Hey everyone, welcome. You've caught me actually speaking. I'm here, and you can see my fine ping tumor happen here. Welcome to the Masked Friend Art Stream, everybody. Hello, hello. Howdy ho. Check out my fine pixel art here. Currently working on some fine cutscenes over my game demo, my faux Game Boy game. Kind of just getting in some just refining a character cutscene. So far so good. It's getting my second character. He's technically my first because I actually started with him, but I got just a basic building block of big talk animation. Probably do need to rearrange that, but it is what it is. Thanks for the follow, Sanda Warrior. And yeah, this is my faux Game Boy game that may or may not fit in the cart, but we'll get to that point. I tend to say that this is a faux Game Boy game that goes into the kayfabe of the Game Boy game, but it is what it is with that. And let's see, let me show you just the other characters that I've completed right now. Completed Captain Rose, the pirate captain who helps Cole out, sailing to different lands all over the place. Oh yeah, I should probably show off a little video of the game that I've been working on for everyone who's new here. So, Blackmask is a Game Boy portable game about a well, it's not portable, but Blackmask is a Game Boy style game about a raccoon treasure hunter looking for exploring dungeons and ruins for treasures to sell in his little merchant shop. And he travels around the world to encounter the oddball animal characters and deal with pirates and all that stuff, and learning to navigate this wacky animal world as he tries to figure out how to find his fortune and get rich. So this has been a game that me and a programmer friend have been working on since 2020, so it's now going on 5 years. But hopefully, if we play our cards right, we'll be able to have a demo ready in time for, I believe it's the Chicago Indie Game Showcase this September. So our deadline is around September, and we will have a vertical slice demo actually playable. And once we do that, probably have an online posting where we'll have the general public play it. And that is the big goal for this year, is to get an actual proper ass demo finished. And we actually have a whole bunch of more things done with this just pre-alpha build you're seeing on this video right now. So that's a little tackle thing that I'm tackling right now. And right now I'm kind of just working on just basic cutscenes for, Cole to be talking to his characters and stuff like that. Let me see if I could drop in an actual front view of him. Neutral. No. Don't have any of his front views. Yeah. See you later. 4 a.m. Wow, are you on the other side of the world? I will assume so. Usually a lot of Shawnee's people who follow him are on the other side of the world, so it is what it is with that. Let me see if I can't find something real fast here. There it is. The coal drawing that I did. Called coal front view. I believe this is within its size here. Yes, you are roughly in the my general size that I need. Look at my margins real quick. Yep, you're in my margins with a little bit of a wiggle room. Good, good. Oh, you're in Greece. Okay, fantastic. Oh, the delicious lamb. I love that. Everybody loves a little, fine Greek cuisine. Fantastic. So yeah, you have a good night, and I'll be working on this till maybe another hour. Let's see. It's currently 8 p.m., so I'm doing my best to not dilly-dally too hard. But I will move this here. Come on. There. Kind of like wondering why this is not going. And yeah, this is a whole bunch of just pixel art prep that I usually just do on the side while not on stream, but I'm always just fumbling around with files and things like that. But it is what it is. So anyway, back to tackling Nad right here. So far, we have a rough idea of how his line art's looking fine. It's just hide coal here. So yeah, so far his line art's down. It's just I could probably nudge Nad just a wee bit more. Yeah, because Nad is way wider than the actual like if this was actually in a cart, I would be eating so many tiles. This is well beyond an actual tile of the actual cartridge of the Game Boy. And I've been experimenting with GB Studio and figuring out how it tackles its tiles and things like that. How it tackles its tiles. And there's some things that work and things that don't work. I've been figuring out that animation tiles are, it's a lot more constrained than I expected, but it can be done. Like I made some characters for a pseudo beat 'em up game, and essentially they're fairly large sprites. Like they're hitting like I think 32 by 96 if I remember off the top of my head. They're larger sprites for the Game Boy cartridge, and they can animate with some good reusing of tiles. I can't set up so characters can walk, but right now I currently have it so it's just only that character can stay on a screen at a time, because the Game Boy is the way the actual Game Boy cartridge works is it can only hold a certain number of tiles on screen at the same time. It can't it doesn't have super high hardware like modern games and things like that. It's got little tile limits, and for Blackmask I don't really need to worry about that because Blackmask is being developed in Unity engine, so I don't need to worry about that. But if I want to have a Kickstarter with a stretch goal of, hey, put this in an actual cartridge, that would be completely unviable, because it would have to be a completely alternate sprite setup. So that's one thing that, when I initially made the initial coal sprite, I wasn't factoring that in, because a lot of my Game Boy stuff was just my personal nostalgia for just playing on, playing on a Game Boy Color and, just enjoying that generation of games. I never played the NES. I had cousins who played the Super NES, but, I never encountered, I believe the N64 and the Game Boy Color were my first game consoles. Yeah, that'd be like the old days of ports where each version was substantially different production. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people probably are like, oh, Genesis is what, Genesis is what Nintendo don't and stuff like that. But yeah, essentially developing a port was like developing a completely alternate game. And obviously games these days are now much more unified because, a lot of consoles are similar enough that, they have the similar infrastructure that you don't really need to change up too hard. And two, I think things have kind of just standardized. I don't know the exact history of the tech, but I guess overall everything standardized enough that, you don't really need to worry. Devs don't really need to worry about significantly different ports. Like doing like back in the day, there was not just Windows and Mac, but there was also like Amiga, Commodore 64, what are those other like computers where it's like each computer like brand was completely different. Like you had IBM and you had completely alternate computers. DOS, I think. No, that's Microsoft. That's just Microsoft. But you just had whole alternate computers that just ran their own infrastructure, and so I assume it was kind of just sucky for devs back then. Even with IBM compatible PCs, hardware capabilities were all over the place. 4 color, 16 color, 256 color. Oh yeah. And I'm just thinking about the American stuff. I believe like there's a bunch of like Japanese PC games are out there, the PC-88. Basically, if you're seeing a image of a pixel art where you just have really high-end pixel art, it's very likely that it's a PC-88 game. Like no console could do pixels like that except maybe an arcade console at best. So yeah, a lot of the notable like anime PC dating sim games is probably on a PC-88 or PC-98. No, PC-88, because a PC-98, whenever I think of the PC-98, I think of the like classic East series, like, YS, those old dungeon crawlers, those games. And, East, Rusty, Valis, things like that. And, there's those really just old school Japanese PC games. And Japanese PC games aren't really that prominent because I guess the Japanese culture of using PC for gaming wasn't really a notable thing. I don't think, at least as far as I know, it wasn't a giant, like PC gaming in Japan wasn't as big as America, if I remember correctly. Like I don't think Japan had Doom. Like I can't imagine Japan being into Doom at all. A friend of yours described the PC-98 scene as everyone had PC-98 for work, so even though it wasn't made for gaming, it had a gaming scene. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so you just had a bunch of, I think it's similar to the early days of just building consumer PCs, because you had like, the hack, like, you had people doing hackathons, and so you had people using learning how to work with computer boards back then. So they were able to essentially make whole different computers, and everyone just had this club together where they were just working on essentially hardware. Yeah, there were other Japanese PCs, but that were more gaming focused, like the Sharp 86800 and the Fujitsu FM Towns, but they weren't as ubiquitous. Yes, I've heard of the Sharp one, but the FM Towns one is different. Yeah, I think I've seen some sprites from the Sharp PC stuff, because I think there was a port of I'm sure there was a port of Street Fighter 2 on that, because I think I remember like seeing videos of that. Yeah, that looks a little too straight, so we're gonna nudge it just a wee bit. Boom. Gotta add a bit more round. Gotta have more round. But yeah, figuring out that tech stuff is always just one of those things where I do like hearing the history of that kind of stuff. And a lot of gaming history doesn't tackle places outside of like Japan, the US. Like the European PC industry is completely alternate to that, because you had like the ZX Spectrum and the early days of CD Projekt Red, where they were basically like a pirate radio station, and they essentially transitioned software through music CDs, if I remember right, with CD Projekt Red, and they would play essentially a specific sound on the radio, where someone who wanted to get the software would record that frequency, or I guess music arrangement. I don't know how CD Projekt Red's like games that they were doing could be on a cassette tape. So that's essentially how they were able to pirate, is that no, it was on CD, and CD Projekt Red. So they were able to essentially pirate games through CD recordings. So I'm not as familiar with the tech myself, but that's that's the interviews from CD Projekt Red, and that's how they kind of like talked about their origins. But essentially that is a lot of those that's a lot of the the European scene of game design and video games in general, because there weren't many arcades out in Europe. And of course you have Mexico and Latin America and all that stuff, where most of Latin America is a Sega place. Like there's more Genesis games in Latin America than Nintendo overall, because Sega was way larger there, because I guess they're just more I think it was just there were just more sports games, and obviously more people like sports. Soccer is always gigantic, so everyone just loves the sports, so therefore Sega just got that stuff working. So obviously I am not a freaking expert on retro game technology. I think a lot of the stuff I find is from like YouTube stuff, like Sticka and Gaming Historian, things like that. So everything I know about that old technology is just I find it on YouTube, or I get interested in certain games, or there's a Retronauts podcast talking about it, things like that. And I just kind of just collect, I just get little bits of trivia, just because I just have a casual interest in just the history of games. I'm not as big with I guess gaming in general. Like most of my game playing stuff is I started on the N64 and went forward, and only recently that I just go back. But I'm not like, I don't collect retro games. I'm not like a giant retro person, but I'm a type of person who's like, yeah, I'm a history buff enough to be like, yeah, I'll go back and try out the original Adventure on the Atari and see how that worked. And lo and behold, it's a pretty solid game for that time. Like, I went to Midwest Gaming Classic this year, and they had a large kiosk where they had the original Adventure. So you could play the original Adventure, and it's a solid dungeon crawler for its time, because essentially it was doing things that, you know, I never even thought was even doable with even just back then. Like Adventure, you know, everyone's probably knows about this, but Adventure has this like portal thing where the player could push this, and that's how they could walk through walls and get a shortcut and stuff like that. And essentially, you know, a player would be able to walk through walls and make shortcuts and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff is like, whoa. You know, if you think about it in terms of this game came out before Super Mario Brothers and Zelda and Gauntlet and all those other games, it's like, oh wow, this is crazy overall. So Adventure, it's worth looking at. I'd say if you either find maybe emulated ROM, or maybe if you find a way to, you know, find the actual original Adventure, I'd say, you know, try it out. It's not as jank as I tried it, but I don't know if it was them adjusting the paddle so it controls, but the way it controls, it's pretty straightforward. It's not stiff to control. I'd say it's not worse than like an amateur Flash game, really. So Adventure is pretty solid. I should play man, I didn't see any kiosks, but I'd love to see if Pitfall or Pitfall 2 was out there, because I also attended a panel with David Crane, and they were kind of like talking about their time at Activision, and basically they were having a good time before it was sold to Bobby Kotick, and basically they were pissed. Like, it's bananas that Activision was the first ever third-party developer, you know? Like, when you think about Activision now, like back then in comparison to Activision now, Activision is a shell of their former self, and it's night and day thinking about the stuff that they did now in comparison to just the fact that Activision is now just the absolute worst when it comes to just trash garbage. So, you know, it's fascinating with that, you know, listening to those old stories of them kind of navigating what's essentially a corporate and basically pioneering world of technology. Yeah, sometimes you forget they were bought by Microsoft. Oh yeah, it's one. Microsoft and stuff like that. Like, Microsoft was exactly a benefiting force in technology overall. Like, obviously they have that strategy of embrace, extinguish, and things like that. Like, embrace, emulate, extinguish, where essentially Microsoft will emulate a successful software and make it proprietary on their stuff, and then they would make their competition work like crap on their machines, but make sure that only their machines were all over each office. So essentially only people would go and get their computers, because, you know, those computers are the ones that actually work on their machines. So that's one of those little bits of trashery that Microsoft's done. Of course, overall, Microsoft's not completely innocent of general stuff, but I'd say it's one of those things where you don't become a multi-billion-dollar company without doing some bullshit. So yeah, it's kind of just one of those things where I keep my admiration for a lot of these companies at arm's length, especially Nintendo. Like Nintendo is not that instant, especially with their fucking, now it's what, $800 console or whatever it is, where you're essentially blowing nearly $1,000 on a new Switch, even though it's, I mean, if you need an upgrade, I guess I'm not gonna judge you if you get a new Switch, but it's like, I still have a bunch of games that I still need to play in my old Switch, so I'm not chomping at the bit to get a new Switch. It's just one of those things where it is an extreme, where does the grand come from? Oh, not $500, it's, how much is the MSRP of the Switch 2? Because it's not $1,000, but it's approaching it. Let's go to Best Buy. Yeah, $499. It's like $500. So it's kind of funny because I spent more money on my current office chair right now, but I could justify that cost because my back's feeling much better. But in terms of getting a new video game console that is very similar to the old video game console, plus I blew cash for a graphics card last year, so it's like I also have a bunch of PC games. Essentially, I'd be spending $500 on a Nintendo machine, and while I'm sure Mario Kart's good, it's probably not like, $80 good. Everything I see from Mario Kart just looks like it's more Mario Kart, so I'm not exactly super up with, it's usually not, yeah, true. It's never been worth buying a console launch year. I have a Switch Mini, so I don't actually have an original Switch, and the Switch Mini's okay. It functions for how I usually live my life. I no longer sit at my TV when I do any gaming, and only rarely do I sit at my PC to do PC gaming. So I might consider a Steam Deck if I have some extra income, but overall I would rather just draw on my bed. Like currently I have an Ambernick RGXX something. It's a emulator portable, and essentially it just lets me play ROMs. It's 35XX, and it essentially just lets me play just game ROMs. So I've just been playing ROMs overall. I've been playing Ninja Gaiden, playing Witch and Whiz, which is a homebrew game, and Witch and Whiz is a block puzzle game where you play as a witch trying to just get through these block puzzles, of course. This looks alright. Control S. And yeah, I've kind of just got so much other mini games that I haven't played. Like you blow so much cash on Steam sales, and you get so many games for cheap that you can just go back and dig through your archive of older games. Sure, you're not gonna get freaking Donkey Kong Bonanza, but it's probably okay. It's probably gonna be a fine game. Like, I'm not chomping at the bit to play it. I mean, it's nice that Donkey Kong has a new game, but it's like, all right, I'll play it later. Like, I'll probably rent it from the library, or I'll get a Switch when I don't have many, financial priorities that are more pertinent than a new console. Excuse me, drinking water. Yeah, I think my current financial priorities right now is basically printing stuff for like new postcards to promote the demo for Blackmask. I mean, that's gonna be, even with that, it's gonna be a fraction of the cost, because like postcards are cheap to print, so it's not like I'm gonna break the bank. But also, I'm recently cleared my credit card and college debt, so I am working hard to not continue that as much as I can. I want to at least save a bit of cash before I completely drown myself with my financial gambles. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those things where we just had the opportunity, so took advantage of that, and essentially I am now much better off than I was last year. And that too has been contributing to my, I suppose, self-improvement arc, where I'm trying to push myself, just make significant changes in my life, where I'm changing up my hair, changing up my fashion, trying to go outside more often than just be a shut-in. Try to get myself to the neighborhood pool, try to get myself to just walk in my neighborhood more. I'm also saving cash to get a bike too, so yeah, that's another thing that I want to save my money for, is just get a bicycle and get myself to just exercise more, because bicycle overall is going to also contribute to me losing some weight and not living such a sedentary life. And I want to get an actual proper ass cycler's cycle. So, well, not a cycler's cycle, but something sturdy that won't just explode. Like, I don't want to get a Huffy from Walmart, because those things aren't like, those things like fall apart in an instant. So you want to, or at least I want to get something a bit more higher end. So okay, so I'm saving up cash for that. I stopped by a bike shop and they had a decent one for like $6.99, but they were on sale, so I probably missed out on that sale. But it's one of those things that I'm going to, what in the, oh, I'm like wondering why on earth is this not working. Blech. But yes, that is basically me kind of like going through a figure it out life, where I'm trying to get myself to be more mentally sound in life and get myself to kind of just not panic over literally everything, even though I am always in panic mode in general. That is just my personality, I'd say. I mean, I shouldn't damn myself to say that. It's just my personality. I can change it. It's just, there's a million things I gotta adjust overall, but, well, getting myself to just do something is always just better than doing nothing. Because overall, most of my life has just been basically just shit talking myself all the time. And I still shit talk myself. It's just, I try not to shit talk myself as frequent. But it's kind of weird, because when I shit talk myself, I kind of feel like I have an inner Gordon Ramsay in my head who's correct about my flaws. And obviously that is not real. You're not all your flaws. You are much more than that. Yada yada, all the self-help stuff. So even though I can internalize and in my mind I'm like, yes, of course I'm not gonna shit talk myself, that is horrible, but in my head I'm like, yeah, but there are people out there who have who give so much of a shit about how they're performing, and they are able to perform to their peak because they're always chasing that high of getting better and better and better and better and stuff like that. It's kind of like, yeah, Michael Jordan is a complete asshole, but he's still the greatest basketball player to ever live. Like, it's not even close. I mean, I'm sure LeBron's nicer to himself and managed to win several rings, but he's certainly not a complete now, you remember Dr. K called that kind of thing toxic fuel, something that'll take you far maybe, but won't make you happy. Yeah, exactly. Because I think there was also a different, I think it was mostly an interview with a different athlete where they essentially just explained that they don't win to feel good, they win to not feel bad. So it's kind of one of those things where I suppose they're constantly starting on the back foot of, I suppose, just performance, and because of all the performance needs, perfectionism, yada yada, all their needs to be able to just get that down, they're able to crush most challenges that come to them. Thing is, because they're constantly driving themselves crazy to get better and better, improve themselves, yada yada, all that stuff ends up just causing them just so much grief and strife that it either burns them out completely, or they end up just offing themselves because it's just well beyond how much they can deal with. So alright, let's probably just nudge you away, get rid of you. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, there's also the movie Whiplash also explores that topic, where there's this line between obsession and there's that line between obsession and passion, where the movie Whiplash is J.K. Simmons is a jazz teacher who is essentially fucking abusive. Like, if you met an actual jazz class, they're nothing like this, but essentially he is the absolute best musician of them all. Like, he's the best jazz teacher. He's taken them to competitions to win handedly, and his results, for better and for worse, work. And this kid who wants to be the greatest drummer to ever live, he's also obsessed with doing that and is willing to take J.K. Simmons's abuse in order to become the best drummer to ever be, to the point where he gets hit in a car crash, and he tries to force himself to keep going to this what's a jazz recital. It's not a recital, but it's an actual jazz concert. I don't remember the actual term for it, but essentially he was trying to brain fight his way through the pain to succeed, and of course he completely faints because he's a human. So at least the movie depicts that realistically. But essentially, a lot of the questions the Whiplash asks is, how much is it worth obsessing over when it ends up just ripping you apart, body and mind and things like that. It's it's a pretty alright movie. It's essentially a sports movie in a jazz thing. Like, if you actually know about real jazz music, like, the movie is really stupid, but honestly I feel like most sports movies are stupid if you actually play the sport. So it's kind of just, that's kind of why I kind of give that a pass. But obviously you shouldn't just make Whiplash your personality, despite the fact that there's a lot of times where I do keep making Whiplash my damn personality. But I really identify with a lot of the real, I guess, crap show terms of just the obsession and basically using workaholism to cover up my insecurities. So yeah, sometimes that'll take you far maybe, but it won't make you happy. Oh, I'm reading it again. Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, I go to a therapist to kind of just talk about that stuff and try to get myself away from that, because, you know, there's a lot of times where I kind of just feel an extremism towards me, my work and art stuff, where it's like, because I am essentially sunk so much time and money into improving my art, you know, improving myself as an artist and stuff like that, I'm essentially just unwilling to relax when it comes to just doing this stuff, you know, just casually. Like, obviously I am getting worked up over what's essentially a video game about talking animals, but because I am staking just most of my creativity and intelligence on making this thing work, it's one of those things where I feel like I have to just do my best, otherwise why bother doing it at all? So it's kind of just one of those I keep saying that. It's kind of just one of those things. I always say that. Yeah, I am intimately familiar with this. Oh yeah, that is the creative life. You want to, obviously nobody goes out of their way to make shit. Like there's a Kevin Smith saying where, yeah, most people who work on stuff don't go out of their way to just make something crappy. They usually will do their best. And, you know, if you're doing your job right, yeah, you're doing the best you can possibly can with the resources that you have, with the time and money that's allotted to you. So obviously there's no such thing as a lazy dev or a lazy programmer, things like that, because essentially what game development is essentially a miracle of computer science, honestly. Like what game development ultimately is essentially doing very complex programming that is way more complex than actual software development, I'd say. Like, I think John Carmack talked about his thoughts on rocket science in comparison to game development, and he's like, rocket science is way easier than game development. Because yeah, it would make sense, because he's essentially spent his life making simulations of nature, and it's basically you are just doing stuff that, you know, in his case, he's essentially inventing whole, like, John Carmack is essentially inventing whole, like, game terms, while everyone else is essentially creating universes through programming and art and simulation. Of course, that is the general art life, but yeah, essentially you are trying to... Yeah, this looks better. This looks good. Yeah, this looks good. I can cut and paste you. Yeah, I can cut and paste you. Let's see. Yeah, it'll work. Yeah, I'm kind of like looking through this and kind of just seeing how you're looking, and it's looking pretty good. It's just so much stuff that just still needs to be tackled. Also, with the eyes, it's kind of funny with like Tanuki. So with Tanuki and raccoons, Tanuki don't have the eye rings together, so they don't have like a full mask, but they have like I guess side eyeliner. So they look, you know, they have like a mask pattern that's more like a panda than a raccoon that actually has a larger line up here and stuff like that. So a notable way that you can tell the difference between a raccoon and a Tanuki is a raccoon will have that line that just goes all the way up their hair or their head and stuff like that, while a Tanuki will not. So it's kind of just one of those just fascinating things about animals. Yeah, I'm glad you studied this. Yeah, I have just a general casual interest in animals and stuff like that. And whenever I, you know, try to make new animal characters, I do take some time to look up what the actual animal looks like and essentially just figure out what I can do to kind of just put my input to that. So yeah. And also, it's fun to kind of just learn about animal facts. You know, you're going through old zoo books and things like that, mess around and see some like little facts. And sometimes it's more satisfying than just going straight to Wikipedia and being like, okay, yada, 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 da. Like, looking up how animals are in mythology is also just fun. Like, seeing them as, you know, how are they symbolically in front of computers? Oh, this specific god represented this animal, or this animal was like a messenger god to, or this animal was a messenger character with that kind of stuff. This animal is an explanation of this mythological being and stuff like that. Oh, Pom Poko is one of my fave Ghibli picks. Oh yeah. Actually, no, thinking about it, I've never seen Pom Poko. But I have. It's kind of weird. Everything I know about Tanuki is from Super Mario Bros. 3. Like, the Tanuki suit was, at the time, the beginning and ending of my knowledge of Tanuki in general. Like, I knew nothing about, like, well, actually, no. Tom Nook also contributed to that, but it's like, I'd never seen Pom Poko or any, like, Ghibli film till college. And, like, even to this day, I've still never seen Pom Poko. Like, I think, I haven't seen a lot of Ghibli films in general. Obviously, I've seen Spirited Away. I think literally everyone's seen Spirited Away. I think I've seen Ponyo. Maybe his Lupin the Third stuff. I have never seen any Pom Poko at all. Yeah, Pom Poko has high furry value. Yeah. Yeah, it's also surprisingly political. Oh yeah, that's yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that. You know, Miyazaki is very opinionated. I also haven't seen Porco Rosso, and that's also fairly opinionated with you know, the political messaging too. So yeah, it is what it is with that. And yeah, like you know, also Princess Mononoke is also fairly political in general, or at least it's very environmentalist. You know, it has a lot of like the environmentalist messages. I also hear that I don't know if they continued it, but they were trying to adapt the Earthsea fantasy novels by Ursula K. Le Guin, and you know, that also is fascinating. Whoa, his ear's actually way larger. I pushed that way too much. You know what? No, I'm just gonna let it rock. Fuck it, we'll do it live. I'll just have just a wee bit of overlap, and I'll just let that rock. Sometimes you're spending so much time fiddling with a mistake, and you need to just tell yourself, fuck it, let it go, because you need to get going on the other things. Because essentially there's supposed to be just a portrait template for, you know, them like talking. Like I got a general overlay thing where essentially you have them talking, you know, with the, like their speech patterns and things like that. So essentially I'm setting up their talk for, I'm setting their sprites up so they're able to like talk in close-ups and stuff like that. So on the one hand, obviously I want to put effort in these sprites, but on the other hand, you're going to see these sprites for like maybe 3 minutes. Well, actually no, I mean obviously it's more important than that. It's just, I guess it's just me constantly, I'm on the wrong layer. It's just me needing to constantly convince myself that yes, what you're doing is very important because it's essentially part of the video game, or at least part of the presentation. So, you know, you might not think that it's important, but it'll at least help with the presentation of that kind of stuff. It's, you know, those little Kojima-isms where, you know, you think, oh, this is not going to matter until it kind of does, and you realize, oh wow, it just makes such a giant difference. Like you think, oh, that kind of detail's not going to be in there, but then people who would appreciate that kind of detail appreciates the detail, and just like making things worth it in the end. I'm kind of like, oh, of course, all that effort actually did mean something. Probably didn't mean something now, but it'll mean something eventually. Like Kojima probably didn't have to put pans that are musically noted like in like musical note order. Like, well, it's not just Kojima, it's literally other programmers, but you know, you always kind of just associate that because, you know, I guess humans just can't think of more stuff in general. You gotta have like a brainchild, and it's difficult to really think about in terms of that. Like, it's difficult to break your head away from the like the auteurs of life and things like that. No, Kevin Levine didn't literally invent BioShock. He was in a team of other programmers who teamed up to create BioShock. No, Will Wright didn't invent SimCity. He was with the team. Shigeru Miyamoto did not invent frickin' Wind Waker. It was with the team. So it's one of those things where you kinda gotta get yourself to mentally memorize that. Obviously, you can't just have one person develop an entire game, because that's not how game development works, even from the start. And of course, there's a whole bunch of like other stuff, especially when it comes to like people like David Jaffe and like Cliff Bleszinski, where it's like you got people who are figureheads who are kind of shit heels, and that ends up just ruining the perception of a game, because every time you think of a certain game, you think of that person. And admittedly, I'm sort of in this position myself, because essentially every time you see Blackmask, you are seeing me, and I'm the only one really just public facing about this game, even though I try my best to just constantly mention I'm not doing this alone. I'm not the programmer. I don't know shit about programming. I tried to program. I know really basic HTML, but that's mostly to just embed YouTube videos or, you know, do tiny little stuff. Like, I know MySpace HTML. That's how much HTML I know. I know enough to customize little customizable things, but everything else, like true web development, I know a whole lot of nothing about. And that's kind of just my code knowledge overall. Now, web dev is hell. Oh, I see. Yeah, I find game dev less arcane. Ooh, okay, that's fascinating to know. So is it what, like trying to get websites to function and things like that? Or is it just, I don't know if you're a freelancer or anything like that, but maybe it's just the clients. Yes, tell me more about the intricacies of web dev, because I do just vaguely customize my website, and I tweak my website in tiny ways to just have a thing to cultivate as I, try to just get away from the hell world of social media. Try to just have my own little wall, my own little garden, my own hole in the wall, so to speak, of websites. So, yeah, learning code is always kind of one of those things where I'm not getting myself patient enough to learn. I haven't done it in a long time, but web dev feels like a jumble of bolted together stuff that happens to work. No, you're not wrong, because my website is essentially a jumble of bolted together stuff that happens to work. Like, my website is essentially a WordPress blog. It's WordPress.com and things like that. And basically, I find whether plugins I need to allow me to add portfolios or add an online store, and whatever works. And I don't know how to set it up so the website loads fast or runs. I just need the stuff. Whereas using a game engine with a scripting language feels more considered in terms of having workflows for creating art, creating game logic, designing levels. Oh, I can see that actually. Yeah, because with web design, essentially you're not even like building tables, or more like you have to arrange just piles and piles, like weird file arrangements. I know, well, from my experience, dealing with figuring out problems with my websites and stuff like that, you have to constantly dive into the I forget, but it's like a collection of the folders where it will hold the various parts of different code stuff, and it's always a nightmare. I have to call Bluehost to figure out what the hell's been going wrong, why my stuff crashes, or I have to figure out why how the there's just a bunch of stuff that I keep getting lost at with web development. So yeah, I totally hear that. Yeah, thinking about it, yeah, that probably sounds like that would be a pain, especially if you're doing that for a client and they also know nothing about web development, and they're essentially just assuming that you are, you're just a person who can just do wishes at their command. Blah. There we are. Kind of like doing I'm going through the same freaking lines over and over again, expecting different results. Zoom out. I should hide the grid, because I don't really need the grid right now. The only reason I have the grid, honestly, is to kind of just get myself to set up my sprites so they could conceivably fit in an actual tile set. None of these sprites probably will if I actually sorry. If I actually put these sprites in a proper tile set, they probably would be a mess. Like, I've seen how the table arrangements goes with like old Super Nintendo tiles and things like that. And when tiles are actually ripped from like the actual arcade boards and things like that, they look like a jumbled mess of code, because all those tiles are assigned to a I forget what the code is, but it's specifically like 0x00003, and that's tile 1. And then you have 0x00002, and that's tile 2. And it will go down until I think maybe 16 at most. I don't remember how that tech works, but basically it's calling certain tiles, and as the game like renders in real time and does all its stuff, essentially it's calling which tiles are required at a certain time. And like, you know, there's a bunch of, like, essentially with the grid stuff, it's calling out each tile that's on yeah, now I'm kind of like confusing myself now, because I only have a passing knowledge of how retro games are programmed. Like, everything I know about retro gaming is very, very amateur. Like, I have a passing knowledge of how the Game Boy works. Even then, I feel like a complete clown when it comes to understanding how it actually all functions together. Fuck it, we're gonna do it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live. Yeah, it's gotta have the big old titties. He has bigger tits than all the other girls. It's a fat boy. It's fat boy summer. He's got some huge manly milkers. I also realized I didn't put his wraps in. Let me do that. Just readjust as I see fit. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the way I do pixel art is I will draw the core pose and then I will animate it. Where usually, if I was animating with this in mind, I would, I'd storyboard this ahead of time so I would know what I would need to animate. And then I would actually, you know, do the animation. While with pixel art, or at least so far, I don't even do much. I don't even use timetables, because my college never taught me how to do the time sheets and stuff like that, which kind of screwed me a bit. Because, I mean, I'm sure other animation studios don't really use time sheets. Using timing sheets has actually been helpful for if you're doing international animation and stuff like that. You need to communicate between languages and tell them, hey, this is how fast this movement's supposed to go, or not how fast, but when this movement's supposed to go. Because the timetable stuff is actually a misnomer, because it's actually a spacing sheet. Honestly, it's the lines are where the drawing's supposed to move to, as opposed to when the lines move, like a timing thing. So that's one thing that actually hindered me until someone actually explained it. And I was like, oh, that's how it works. Okay. Got you here. Now I'm going to do a fun little trick where I use the same lighting here, but I use the illusion of shading, or at least I guess the context of the light to make it look like it's shaded, but it's essentially the same shade color. That's one thing that how I shine with the Game Boy Pal. You end up solving interesting problems with working with just those 4 colors. Is you're just working with values, and not just working with values, you are working with essentially the same shades. And I like that in tiny ways. It reminds you of just comic art, where I'm inking and I gotta figure out, okay, how do I convey this tone in just ink lines? So kind of just one of those things where as you do it, you end up like someone who's never worked with, you know, a monochrome color palette would kind of feel daunted by just the limit of you only have 4 colors to work with. But it can be done. You just gotta, you know, take it one step at a time. Start with the dark lines and start with the initial like fill-ins and like figure out, okay, how would this be toned? Okay, you'd have to have the ears be the darkest part, then you'd have the mask be the less dark part. And then how you figure out how to do the shading, you figure out, okay, what can you use to just convey the light? And you end up understanding more and more both how, as you build it up, and both how you what's it called, how you know, the more you do it, the easier it gets. That's the long and short of it. Is you can't get worse at a thing and do it every day. So, you know, I try to do more with it, and especially with this, because I'm trying to distinguish this shade from this shade of his pants. I use a thickness of the black lines to just indicate that there's a bit of shadow. Same for here. I'm indicating that there's a little bit of a shadow right here. You have like a little bit of a rope. Now, one thing that's also helped me with just getting myself to grasp how to plan pixel art and stuff like that is I'm not coloring lines, but trying to color shapes. I'm trying to put in specific blocks of shapes to convey the value that you need. When you zoom in, it looks like a giant blocky mess of trash, but when you zoom out, it looks like a cohesive unit of, you know, proper lighting and stuff like that. So figuring that stuff out is, you know, it is overall improving me as an artist, because I am pushing myself to go beyond typical okay, that's how you do it. Alright, I'm kind of like blanking because I'm in ponder mode where I'm figuring out, okay, how am I doing this? Little bits like that. I was gonna take a break, but it's like 9:21, so it's like, okay, I'll just finish a majority of this because there is a lot. And I debate whether or not to like do this. Debate whether or not to do this. Okay. I could probably do something like essentially the lighting's supposed to like go to the left. Like that is the basic gist of it all. Get the lighting, it goes to the left. That's how I'm doing it. You know what? I was gonna like add a line. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I can't believe I lost my train of thought. Yeah, well, we'll just veg. I will veg. Yeah, it's kind of fun because pixel art, I took to pixel art much easier than I took into 3D modeling, and what I basically did was just self-teach myself from a pixel art book. Well, with 3D modeling, even with a teacher, it just didn't click for me. And it's mostly because I just didn't know what the heck I was able to do with 3D modeling. And I just ended up getting frustrated with the tech, and I just bounced off of 3ds Max. But you know, you see stuff and you're kind of like, man, you're seeing so many people pull off amazing sculptures and things like that. Yeah, I've looked at sculpting every once in a while, but even that kind of like, I don't even know the first thing about sculpting. I tried Blender, I tried Mudbox, I even tried ZBrush, just did not click. I do own what's it called? What's the iPad app? Nomad Sculpt on my iPad, and I've just been intimidated from trying it. I probably should at least try it. Just getting myself to just do it just a wee bit. Just to get myself to just do some kind of nomad, just some kind of sculpting, just get myself to do it. And one thing that I also just really like doing is dithering. You know what? Would dither? No. Let's work with this dithering. Ugh. Yeah, I do own Nomad Sculpt, but I've just never gotten around to just sitting down and just sculpting something. I think that's probably just it. I don't have a project that's, you know, hitting me enough to be like, okay, I'm going to learn sculpting to do such and such. Like, I haven't found the it project that I want to do, I guess, because I think that's one thing that can help you, that can help a person get through the trash of learning a new skill, is if you have like a goal to work towards, that will at least alleviate those occasions of frustration where you're going nowhere because you're working towards a cool thing as opposed to getting walled by the trash. That's looking good. Nodded. This is looking decent. Sorry, I don't know why I'm coughing so much. That's so much stuff in my throat, maybe. Okay. You know what? Let's improve the leaf here. We gotta improve the leaf. Get a nice shiny leaf. Shiniest damn leaf you'll ever see, bro. I use the tips to dull that shine so it looks like a good gradient. And use the other tip to add a little bit of a rim light. Get that leaf to look illuminated. Yeah, maybe it's over rendered. Yeah, a wee bit over rendered. I'm trying to like get this to just not look like a tongue as much. Oh, I know what's up with this. I know what's up. So this cheek fluff is not finished at all. I didn't work on it at all, so I need to do just a little bit to kind of just get that going. That's part of the mouth. Yeah. I can make this work. I do need to sculpt. I guess that's a common. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. See you later, and yeah. Thanks for stopping by my stream. Yeah, I think it's a artist meme that are like, one day I'll learn Blender. And an artist never gets around learning Blender because 3D modeling is an absolute, 3D modeling is a whole alternate skill that requires its own brand of time and energy, and like even low poly stuff ain't light because essentially you need to have a specific render setup. But I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out because 3D modeling, or at least low poly 3D, just looks interesting enough that I do want to at least dive in. And obviously I do want to see my characters in 3D. There has been one instance where one person has rendered one of my character designs in 3D and it looks exceptional. And I'm like, holy cow, this is great. I need to either ask that guy for just a tutorial on how to do it, or we just commission more stuff from. I should commission more things, but his tax situation, his country is a little messy, so he actually discourages commissions because it would really screw him, unfortunately, which is actually kind of crap sometimes. Plus, there's a whole bunch of just different issues when it comes to making money as an artist most days, because, artists end up like getting screwed over by the most minimum shit. Like there was this blue sky thing going around about how much artists, like how much NSFW artists make in terms of, you know, money and stuff like that. It is that typical meme of like, oh, drawing porn will net you way more money than just drawing actual, you know, drawing not porn. And it's kind of like, yeah, if you're a top tier artist, I mean, you're not, what's a top tier porn artist? Not Sakami-chan, because they're not. I mean, they probably are. I haven't paid attention enough. But I know, like, a lot of porn mutuals don't make that much money. Like, after taxes, after everything's said and done, they do not make that much money. They really don't. It's kind of just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's a perpetuating myth. You could, it's just, you know, you have to be all in it yourself. That's the equivalent of saying, yeah, you can make money as a comic artist, but you'd have to be a top tier comic artist. Plus, you need to be a constantly working and in demand artist. Plus, you gotta be, you know, constantly getting your work in the public eye so you can keep that demand. So, you know, that's a whole bunch of just junk that people do not consider when it comes to specific art tasks. So, kind of just one of those things. Need more water. I wonder if I should just wrap this here, because blah. I was gonna do some work on this owl today, but honestly I'm just tired. It's kind of 9:34, it's kind of late, but I'm not gonna fret too hard about it. That's it, I'm just gonna wrap the stream today. Yeah, next week I'll be streaming again, and I'll either work on this Nad cutscene some more, or, you know, everything else. So it's neither here nor there. And, you know, I'm constantly streaming all the time. I have a YouTube archive, youtube.com at Masterfran Art Stream, which is different from YouTube at Masterfran, which is just my main art channel that, well, I rarely update, but I usually update with clips and things like that. But yeah, anywho, I stream every week and do stream mostly at night. So, you know, subscribe, you know, follow me, hit the notification, all that fun stuff. Anywho, thank you all for stopping by my art stream, and I will see you all next time. Have a good night.